All right, so welcome everyone. I'm Dominique Ramos. I'm the administrator over at the Lane Sachem Fund. Today's session is on storytelling for fundraising, and we're joined today by David Kay. David is a social justice dreamer and community builder with 2 decades of fundraising experience in the field. So I'll turn it over to him right now to share his wisdom.
Good afternoon, everyone. Really excited to see so many beautiful faces and believe in all your work. And I'm super happy to be here today. I am going to talk about fundraising, but I wanted to start off with a little story. I want you to imagine me at 22 years old and I had a little more hair than I do now. And I just moved to Boston. I was trying to figure out what to do with my life. And I found out about this place called the Center for the Study of Sport and Society. And they were starting an AmeriCorps program to work in the Boston public schools, doing tutoring and mentoring and some conflict resolution work. And I was like, this sounds right for me. And so on the 3rd day of the training, I was in a room when we still do trainings and workshops in the room. And there was a whiteboard at the front of the room on one side of the room and another whiteboard on the other side. And the facilitator said, just want to ask a question just to the men in the room. And the question was, what do you do on a daily basis to prevent yourself from being raped or sexually assaulted? And I'd studied African-American history in college, but I really didn't have much gender consciousness. And, I looked around the room and all the men were quiet. And finally, a man in the corner raised his hand and said, we don't do anything. And then they asked the question to the women in the room. I had bonded with these women. We got really close the way you can with a cohort in a really quick period of time. And they asked the women the same question. And the board started filling up. There were answers like, I go to a party with a group of women and I leave with those same women. I never leave my drink unattended. I carry keys as a weapon. I never park alone in a dark place. I never walk alone at night. And I saw their board and I saw our board, and I was like, I'm someone who cares about justice and equity. I have to start speaking up on these issues. I have to use some of my status as a man to kind of reshape these ideas of masculinity. And that kind of jumped me into social justice work, but also into work around racial justice and around economic justice. And that's really been what my career has been about over the last 20 years. Today I am going to talk about fundraising, but I want you all to know that I've also run programs. And one of those programs that I think has a pretty good story to tell is called the One Hood Peace Basketball League. And I'm just going to show a video, a real short video, to let you see it with your own eyes.
There was a lot of conflict, so some kids are from a different neighborhood that you're not allowed to go into.
Even if folks are just a few blocks away, they've been told they're not supposed to like these people that look just like them, that come from the same circumstances. I want you to imagine this. You have 50 young people. The only colors are their uniforms, and the only battles are for rebounds. And then you have more than 50 community members watching. And I think that's a powerful message because it's public. It's on the Blackstone Community Center court.
So that's why they call it One Hood, because when everybody comes here, you're not from Dorchester, you're not from South End, you're from Blackstone, you're part of the family. So it's one hood, one community.
The One Hood Peace Basketball League, founded in 2006, brings young people together across turf lines in the South End and Lower Roxbury to build neighborhood unity through the power of basketball, workshops on conflict resolution, masculinity, and peace. Most leagues.
Go to the next slide. Thanks for playing that, Dominique. I appreciate it. Before we get into our own stories, and we are going to get into your stories, just wanted to start with some agreements. And could I have someone from the group read the first agreement, please? Anyone could jump in. It's hard for me to see.
I will. Phyllis
you,
Corkum
Phyllis.
from Philanthropy Mass. Sorry, I turned off my camera, but I'm eating lunch. Speak from the heart. Be open and honest. Please participate, sharing as much as you feel comfortable. It's okay to pass.
Thanks. And can you popcorn it to someone, please?
And I pop it over to Lauren Walsh.
Thank you.
Listen from the heart, stay present, fight the urge to agree or disagree, allow people to be heard without judgment.
Thanks so
And
much.
I'd love to popcorn it, but I don't know what that means.
Oh, you can just pass it to someone else who's in the group.
Okay, let me see. Where is everyone? Oh, okay, I will pick Andrew Ott. Thank you.
Thank you.
Say just enough. If you know you're a big talker, talk less. If you're a small talker, practice taking up a little bit more space. Prioritize marginalized voices.
Thanks so much.
And I guess I will pick Doris. Did Doris Morales go yet?
Honor privacy and stories. Someone else's story is really not ours to tell unless they're in danger. Please respect confidentiality.
Thanks so much, Doris. And if folks don't mind, can we get some head nods, maybe a thumbs up through your Zoom just to agree to these guidelines? I don't like calling them rules, but I mean, we're really just trying to practice respect and give everyone a chance to speak. And does anyone have anything that they would like to add that they think is important that might be missing? And it's hard to see everyone, so if anyone wants to just jump in, please do so. Anything missing? Okay. We're gonna go to the next slide. So we're gonna actually going back one slide. So I just want to thank everyone again for being here. And today's workshop's really about your story and using your story to help your organization raise critical money to support your mission. And we know today that money is needed more now than ever with the dual pandemics of racial injustice and COVID-19. I want you all to know that today's going to be fun and interactive. It's not going to be your typical fundraising workshop, I promise you. And you'll have the opportunity to both share and listen to stories. And hopefully you'll gain a few new ideas about how to use storytelling to help you raise some funds. We also have a lot of fears around fundraising, and folks in this room are at a lot of different levels. I always ask when I'm doing workshops if there's a spitter in the room, and people look at me like, oh, I don't spit. But the spitter is the smartest person in the room. And that is not me. I'm not the spitter. And I don't think there is a spitter in here, that we all have unique talents and abilities and ideas. And we're going to learn from each other today. And with that, we're going to jump into a little personal intros for yourselves with an activity. And this is called the I'm Happy icebreaker. With all that's going on in the world, we have to find ways to be happy. And can I get someone to read out just the opening number one? Anyone could jump.
Find a photo on your phone of you being happy or something or someone that makes you happy.
Okay. And if you don't have a phone, you could draw an emoji of yourself being happy or grab something really quickly in your house. And when you're done, when you find it, just put it in the camera so we can see it. And if someone's ready to share, I'd like everyone to participate. I mean, you do have the opportunity to pass, but I'd love to see those photos of you being happy, or those objects, or that drawing. Does anyone want to start?
I will.
Thank you.
So I have to. Can you see my picture?
Not quite, but
Oh,
does it say the
dark,
best?
Dark, I'm sorry. So it's a picture of my family, my
Okay.
husband and my 2 kids. And they make me happy because I'm happy to have a family that supports me. My name is Lauren Walsh, and I work for Dreamfar High School Marathon. And my preferred pronoun is she. And I think I skipped the questions around, but I answered why they make me happy, because I'm happy to have a family that supports me in my new position here.
That's awesome. Great to meet
Thank
you.
you.
And if you can pass it to popcorn it to someone else, that'd be awesome.
Sure. Maria Lourdes Silva.
Hi. My granddaughter, she's make me happy.
Thank you, Maria. And what organization are you with?
I'm from Brazilian Women's Group in Brighton.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks. And Maria, can you pass it on to someone else, please?
Tida de Rosa. Do I say the name right?
You're on mute.
Yes, it's Tetta. And this is a picture of my son, Cleveland. He makes me happy.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm with Hawthorne Youth and Community Center.
Oh, great. Great. And can you please pass it to somebody else?
I will pass it to Phyllis Corkum.
Hi, thank you. That's Phyllis Corkum with Philanthropy Mass. Her pronouns. This is a picture of my daughter petting my dog. My daughter is now a graduate student, and so every time she comes to see us, the dog goes crazy, and it couldn't be anything better than that. My husband's not in the picture because he doesn't like to be in pictures. But yes, they make me happy. And I will turn it over to Michael Cox.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I don't see an image of me, so I'm gonna just try to wing it. It is a photo of a rose. I just bought my first home, and I am obsessed with the rose bush that I got. I inspect it every morning. And so it's just having another bloom, and it's just, I don't know, it's amazing. I love it. Yeah, and I don't see the other, oh, there they are. So my name's Michael Cox, he, him pronouns. I'm with Black and Pink, Massachusetts. And I will popcorn it over to my comrade, Charlize.
Can't see myself. Hold on.
You might be on mute. Okay, coming through.
Okay, I can't see. Oh, hi, my name is Charlize, and I am with Black and Pink. And what makes me happy, I do have a picture, but I'm going to make a picture video. And she makes me happy right there. And that's Tiny, that's my dog, that's my baby. And I will popcorn it over to Phyllis Corkum.
Well, I
already-
was, so I'm going to popcorn it to Mona.
Oh, I was gonna, okay.
That's fine, thank you. Hold on, I'm gonna turn on my video. Sorry about all this. So, let's see, a photo of myself. This is, can you guys see this? This is a photo of myself. It's my Facebook profile photo. And this photo is just me being happy because I took this picture the day that I resigned from my day job. So I resigned from being a middle school teacher that day, and I took a picture, and I was feeling happy because I got to focus on my nonprofit work instead of needing to work a second job to kind of keep things going. So it was a big decision for me, and it was a happy day that day. So I think that's all. Am I supposed to say something else? Okay. My name, organization. So my organization is Ansar of Worcester, and we're located in Worcester. We help immigrants and refugees, and my preferred pronoun is she. I think I already shared why that makes me happy. Let's see, who can I pass this on to? How about I pass it on to Mohammed Abdullahi?
Thank you. Mohammed, you might be on mute. Okay, could we pause on Mohammed and we can come back to Mohammed, but would someone else like to jump in? Andres or Cheryl or anyone ready to go? Can just jump in.
Yes, I can jump in. My name is Couture Brewster. Please excuse me, my webcam is not working at the moment.
Okay.
So that's the only reason why my camera wouldn't be on. But something that makes me happy is food. I really love to cook and, get a little jazzy in the kitchen. And yeah, again, my name is Couture Brewster. I'm with I Have a Future, and my preferred pronouns is the she series. And then I'll pass it to whoever else hasn't gone yet.
I'll jump in.
Hi, everyone. Sorry. Should I go?
Sure.
Okay, I'm Juliet Najumba. I am the founder of Africano Waltham, and we serve African immigrant youth and their families. And what makes me happy is I need to say bittersweet. They make me happy and also sad at the same time. My son, who is 12, and my daughter, who is 14, because sometimes they're nice and sometimes they're not. But I still love them and they make me happy. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I pass it on to Andre de Castillo.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, same. I have my connection just chops up if I'm on. So, I'll just tell y'all, I was trying to post it as my profile picture, but I have two nieces, 5 and 3, and they make me incredibly happy. So that's who makes me happy. My name is Andres del Castillo, co-director, Right to the City, Boston, he, him pronouns.
Thanks so much. And if you don't mind popcorning into someone who hasn't gone. Or someone could just
I see someone with the name HYCC Roxbury. Don't know who the first, if that's.
There's a couple of us that say HYCC Roxbury, but my
Why don't
name
you
is
start, Marshall?
And I don't know if you can see this. Oops, I'm sorry. But this is my, where am I? This is my granddaughter, Maya, and she has just purchased a condo, and that makes me happy. HYCC Roxbury is Hawthorne Youth and Community Center. I'm a board member, been there for a while. I guess pronouns, I'm old school, so I don't know.
It's okay, thank you, Marshall. Marshall, you wanna popcorn it to someone who hasn't gone?
I actually can't, did Suleiman already go? I see Suleiman.
Hi, everyone. Yes, that's me. Hi, how are you? I'm Jihan Solomon. How are you, everyone? Thank you so much for the invite and also for introducing yourselves. Now I know people just behind the name. My name is Jihan Solomon, and I'm calling from Jahan Women and Youth Intercultural. It's a new organization that serves the Muslim and Arabic speaking communities here in the state. We got okay by the state of Massachusetts back in February of last year, so just before the pandemic hit. And we were able to help the community, not just the Muslim and Arabic speaking community, just the community that all the community, everyone in the community that were able to help with different services that we have. And I go by the pronoun she and her and hers. And what else? I think I don't know if you guys can see it. I'm trying to share the screen. I don't know if you guys can see the screen here. That's my daughter's drawing, and I love when I don't know if it's clear, but I tried. She loves to, she's 12 years old and she loves to draw. And I'm always proud of what she does. And I don't know, I really want to show you guys this, but let's see.
Yeah, we can see it. It's really pretty. So
this drawing reflects, that's what she said. She's really proud of this painting. It's a painting for the Sudanese revolution that's happened back in 2019, and she was able to go to different demonstrations and here in Boston, and she drew a woman who lost her eye for a tear gas tank, and she also reflecting a Sudanese tradition for wedding. And she just, through this painting, she's hoping that a wedding is always something new and something happy, bring happiness to people and bring new life. And she's thinking that this is something that represents the new life for Sudan. So I'm really proud of her and proud of she's 12 years old and she put so much on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. I really do appreciate it, and love it if you could popcorn it to someone else.
Yeah, so who hasn't been there? Is Hong Mei Hang, was she the did she?
I don't think she's gone yet. Mei Hong?
Yeah.
Hey, hi, sorry. Thank you. Mei Hong and she and her, what makes me happy is that I'm able to wake up in the morning each day and able to learn and to do things and to be useful for the mankind, and be able to make friends like today. This is an incredible program, and I run this organization called Chinese Culture Connection to help the Chinese immigrants, particularly to understand and appreciate American culture while maintaining their cultural heritage. We also help in the general public, regardless of their native origin, to inspire their curiosity and embrace not only their own cultural tradition, but at the same time, culture around all of us within our reach. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Do appreciate it.
And in terms of picture, should I give you a picture?
Oh, yeah.
I would show you a picture. Actually, earlier on, I sent you a picture, so I'm going to flip this. I have a lot of pictures. Can you see this picture here?
Oh, yeah.
This is saying, okay, here, this is a better one. Look, love is here to stay. So I like to share all this kind of cute stuff. My husband like to collect some of the wonderful things. So here's a love, be of love a little, be more careful, then of everything, love of everything. So that's good for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, May. And if you could popcorn it to someone who hasn't gone, I think Jen has not gone. If Andrew went.
I'll go.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you, Mei Hong. Hi, everybody. I'm Jen Smith. I work with Beat the Streets New England, and I use the she, her pronouns. I have a lot of things that make me happy, and I just grabbed my orchid, which is growing a few new keikis, and that's just always exciting to see that love and nurture taking root, and it can really go new places. So wanted to share my plant as well. When I saw the picture of the rose, I knew I would share my plant too. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I think as far as anyone who has not gone yet, Cheryl Cummings, have you gone?
I haven't, but can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So apologies, no camera. But so I'm Cheryl Cummings. Pronouns are she and hers. I run an organization called Our Space, Our Place, and we do a after school and career exploration program for blind and low vision students in the Boston area. So wow, something that makes me happy. I had a lot of things, but I decided to talk about some craft things that I just bought. I love arts and crafts, and so I bought something, a wooden vessel called a cracker box. So that was one. It's just awesome. And then I also just bought some cups that were made, by hand and clay and all that sort of fun stuff. So I'm pretty excited to have those. So thank you.
Thank you. I love imagining them too. I love the arts and crafts. I'm picturing them in my mind right now. So thank you.
Sure.
And can you pass it? I don't know who else has Tata. I don't know if Tata has gone so far. I'm not sure if who else. It's hard to see.
Andrew.
I haven't gone. I'll go next if that's okay.
Thanks, Doris.
Hi, so I'm Doris Morales. I'm from Hawthorne Youth and Community Center, a board member. And what makes me happy is, let me see, those two girls, they're my daughters, and they just make me smile. So that's all.
Thank you.
And whoever else, I don't know. I think everyone's gone. Not sure.
I think I spoke before, but I haven't been on this segment. I don't know if anyone else has not gone.
You could go. It's okay.
I was just I'm Andrew Ott. I'm with Code Squad. We train folks from underserved communities to become web developers and launch a new career. And I found this photo on my phone. I don't know if that's visible. My son playing basketball, and it's just really exciting because he's 11, and I can't really see it that well, but anyway, there he is. It's a 11-year-old playing basketball, and this is a year when he's developed a lot of new skills, and it's suddenly he's opening up to possibility, and that's that maybe he doesn't have to be an expert the first time he tries something. So that's the stage of life he's in, and it's kind of exciting as a dad to say, hey, look, there's a new skill. You just learned that.
That's so cool.
And if there's anyone, I don't know anyone who's not gone, but I'd be happy to pass it on to whoever that person is if there is someone. Lenny Sakenfund hasn't gone.
Michael, have you gone?
Yes, I was the rose guy.
Thank you. Thank you. Has anyone not gone? And I apologize, I'm not able to see everyone at the same time. So has anyone not gone? Okay. All right, and if you choose not to go, that's okay as well. But I'd love to hear from someone about how it felt to either share your story or listen to other folks' story. Anyone can go.
I know for me, I've got the biggest grin on my face.
Who said that?
Oh, it's Dominique.
Oh, Dominique, thanks so much. Anyone else want to share what it was like?
I will. I think we have a lot in common. We're all out there helping people, serving our communities, and a lot of people like their plants and their families and like to cook. So I think we have so much in common, and I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much.
And you said that in a really great way, that we do have a lot in common, and in our stories and in our love for our families, that, you know, that definitely shined through. I'm wondering how this exercise or this icebreaker, how you think this might relate to today's topic of storytelling for fundraising or storytelling for social justice. Any idea?
I feel like, yeah, I feel like it's regardless what we do and how we think that we're effective or ineffective in our community, or the roles that we play in our community, we still carry on a message regardless. I mean, even for ourselves, that would be something that it'd be more, there will be a message or be a story behind each one of us. And that counts, and each story counts, regardless who's telling it and who's listening to it.
Yeah, that's really deep. Does anyone have any reaction to what Jihan, am I saying it right?
Yes, yes.
To what Jihan said about everyone having a story, and the folks we're working with all have stories. Any reaction to what Jihan said? Does anyone have a different idea about how this exercise can connect with storytelling for social justice? Because it definitely is important, to echo what Jihan said, that all of our participants have stories, and how we can use those stories, not in an exploitive way, but in an uplifting way, and how our work impacts them. That's going to be a big part of what today is about. Any other ideas about this exercise, or ideas that you have about how we can connect this with the stories of our work?
So I was just thinking that as everyone was sharing and sort of like coming up with things that they had in common, liking food, having teenagers, that, you know, a lot of us operate in certain circles and that we fundraise from those circles primarily. But as I was listening and to everyone being from different organizations that do everything differently, you know, have different purposes, that there's so much more in common. So I was thinking to myself that through those personal connections, we can broaden the audience where, you know, that we fundraise from. You know, there's more connections out there than we realize. We tend to like stick to the same fundraising circle when there's a lot of people that might sympathize with our cause that we're not even talking to them.
And that's really deep. So like broadening our reach, and also there's a lot of different ways that we can tell our stories, and we're going to dive into some of those today. I think one thing I'd like to do first, before talking about storytelling for fundraising, talk a little bit more about storytelling for social justice. And so we can go to the, yeah, that slide is perfect. Thank you, Dominique. This is a theory. Does anyone know who Marshall Gans is? It's hard for me to see you all, so I'm going to talk a little bit about Marshall Gans. He's well known for creating this storytelling pedagogy, this storytelling framework called the story of self, the story of us, and the story of now. Marshall Gans is a Jewish civil rights leader who worked with Dr. King in the civil rights movement. And then for 16 years, he spent time organizing, using storytelling for organizing with Cesar Chavez in the United Farm Workers movement. He's also widely credited with helping derive Barack Obama's winning grassroots organizing campaign that helped Obama win the 2008 presidential campaign. His framework since then has been used by organizers in many different fields and subsequent social justice movements. And I think it has a lot of applicability. It can be applied to using storytelling for fundraising for our social justice causes. And with that, I wanted to start out and just see if someone could read out loud the story of self and the type of questions that we might ask. Does anyone want to jump in?
I'll read it. It says, self. What was a challenge I experienced? What choice did I make? What was the outcome?
Yeah, so that's the story of self. And we've already started touching a little bit about who we are, and we're going to dive deeper into that today. And then could I have someone read the story of us?
How can I make my story more than just myself? How can I use my story to connect with others?
Yeah, and then, what social justice cause does my story support? So it's kind of connecting my personal story. For example, in the opening today, I was giving a personal story that I often use when I facilitate gender violence prevention workshops of how that story became important to me. And I would go deeper into it about talking about how men's violence against women is an issue that affects not just women, but people of all genders. And gender does exist on a spectrum, that it's the leading cause of injury to women in the US, and why it's important. If you have women in your life who you care about, regardless of your gender, you have to speak up on it. So it's kind of making that shift from my personal story to that connection of how it impacts us all. And then could I get someone to read the story of now?
Now, why is my story so important now? What action can my story lead us to take for social change?
Yeah, and so that's critical. And like, for example, in my early workshops, I didn't talk much about trans rights or about intersectionality. And now it's really critically important. Like, one of the groups that gender violence impacts the most, for example, is trans people of color. And it's really important that everyone, regardless of your gender, speaks out on that issue. With that, I'm gonna go to the next slide. And so this story of self, as you're thinking about, we just started with a little hint of our story, of our own personal story. And as we delve deeper into your personal story, I encourage you to think more deeply about who you are, what parts of your personal story drives you to do your work, and how your story can influence someone else to support your organization. And that someone else could be an individual, could be a foundation, could be a government resource. Storytelling can impact a lot of different sources of support. And I want to dive into a real good example of how this might look like, sound like, feel like. So I'm going to pass it to the next slide. And so Yahaira Lopez, an autism sprinter, Zachem Fund actually supported Yahaira, and she's a dynamic, powerful woman who's been leading this work at the edge of disability rights and racial justice. She's also been an outspoken leader on work around mass and caste and issues with substance use there and how it impacts the community. I'm going to switch to the next slide, please. And so this is an example of the story of self and how it can kind of be applied to a fundraising appeal, which could be a letter of inquiry, it could be a grant, just more aligned the way that I do my fundraising work. And I'm going to read this out loud just so y'all can hear it. And I wrote this with her. As a working class Puerto Rican single mother who faces multiple challenges related to raising two boys diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, Autism Sprinters founder and executive director, Yahaira Lopez, has firsthand knowledge of the lack of resources, access to information, and quality of education and care for families like hers in the city. After venting frustrations to friends, the bold leader decided to do something to help other parents with children on the spectrum by starting a blog. For 3 years, she documented her experiences, raised awareness about autism's challenges and opportunities, and let parents, especially underserved inner city Black and Latino moms, know that they are not alone. From this initial blog with very few resources, but an incredible amount of passion and purpose, she launched Autism Sprinter, a nascent but powerful organization that improves the lives of families, caregivers, and their children with autism spectrum disorder. And so then it kind of goes on from that intro into how the organization Autism Sprinters work directly connects to the work of that foundation and goes into essentially their mission of building a grassroots coalition to provide advocacy, public and direct programming to directly challenge gross inequities around issues of disability rights and racism. And so I'm gonna just shift to the next slide. And so that first slide really talked a lot about Yahida's personal story and started shifting over to the story of us. And now this example is from another appeal that we did together that focuses on how it shifts from the story of self to the story of us and now. And so I really try, and I encourage you all to think metaphorically, to use evocative imagery as a way to capture, especially foundations who read hundreds of proposals that sound the same. And a lot of those proposals start out with the overview of request, which is at the bottom. But think about reading this or hearing this for the first time when you're reading a lot of these on behalf of the board and staff of ... Instead, you hear, I want you to imagine the scene. 100 superheroes gather together for a party. They all wear costumes. Masks adorn their faces, not to conceal their identities, but rather to reveal their power and revel in their strength. The joy is palpable as these children on the autism spectrum laugh, dance, and play with youth with a wide range of abilities. Too often they are picked on because they are perceived as different, but not today. On this day, everyone celebrates their unique abilities and qualities that make them special, as the community's love fortifies their powers. And then it kind of goes into, from that story of us, and it goes a little deeper into who the organizers are. And says, this superheroes party is a powerful event that raises awareness and increases acceptance within the city of families with children on the spectrum. It also serves as a poignant metaphor for the work of our organizers at Autism Sprinter, predominantly working class Black and Latino women, real life unsung heroes from Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, and Randolph, who fight against the double-edged sword of racism, disability stigma that is faced by inner city parents whose children have autism. I'm gonna pause for a moment and ask a couple of questions. I think the first question is there any reactions to Yahida and the way we framed Autism Sprinter's story? And maybe
David, she really catches your attention. That's certainly true. It's a very different depiction from the usual historical view that everybody gives of their organization.
Thanks so much, Marshall. Appreciate that. Any other thoughts about how this might be different than the usual way that you're hearing these types of stories? In grants, or when you're writing grants, or you're reading them, any thoughts? What makes it different? And what catches your attention?
I have one thought. I wonder if this is a framing that works better for certain types of funders more so than others.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not sure if that's true, but I'm wondering, I'm brainstorming that.
I'd love to hear from other folks. Would this type, work better with different types of funders than others? It's a good question. Any ideas? How about, Jen, what do you think about that? Do you think this might work better with certain types of funders rather than others? Or do you think these types of storytelling can be influential regardless of the type of funder?
My experience is still pretty new here, David, but I
Okay.
can at least say from the few grants that I have written, it's a very unique voice that shows reading this. And it does paint a picture, which I know funders are always interested in, being able to read it through the eyes of the participant, the student, whomever it may be. It does a good job of doing that. So I do like that piece of it. And I'm interested in actually, essentially borrowing and learning from this. So thank you.
No, it's all good. And you brought up a really good point, and that is funders do want to hear from the participants. In some way, this is the founder and not the participant. In some ways, she's very similar to who she's serving, which I think a lot of funders has been a big shift towards the leadership of organizations representing the voices and being from the communities that they're serving. But I think it also brings up this point that one thing that I try to do in pretty much all of my proposals is to include the voices of the participants as often as possible. So as you're all in some, and I want to acknowledge that a lot of people here are at different levels of fundraising. So I'm trying to speak to a lot of different levels of where people might be at. But I really encourage folks to use as many direct quotes from your participants as possible. And that's been something, I've been very successful in terms of a broad array of different organizations and applying to different types of funders. And I think one of the things that helps stand out is actually showcasing the voices of participants. Any last questions on either this framework of the story of self, us, and now, or any questions about how you might use this type of storytelling before we jump into the next? And if you have a question, maybe the easiest way is either just put I'm next in the chat, just so I know who's seeking to speak.
Hey, David, this is Jihan. I just wanted to elaborate on the storytelling part. I guess it depends on the grant itself or the subject, because for example, I know in our community, for example, autistic is something that's not everyone would like to speak about, and so you hardly find someone to give you the story, so you can be able to include it in a grant, or it's just the stereotyping and the stigma behind that. So it's just not, and that also goes to mental health as well. So stuff like this it's sometimes to be able to get the permission from, let's say, from the families or the members.
Sorry about that.
The members or the families that so you could be included in a grant. It's just sometimes it's not as easy as people might think.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you bringing up the idea of permission, and also this idea that there are a lot of cultural taboos, and which I see Mona, thank you so much, Mona, for your comment. How cultural taboos impact the work. the stigmatization in different communities of different issues, mental health being one of them. I think it is really important also if we're able to use these stories so it makes it more real, makes it more tangible. But I definitely hear you, Jihan. I hear you, Mona. Those are really important ideas. And also the idea of permission, that we definitely want to get permission from folks. Any other ideas about this use of storytelling and how we can use it, or any questions before we dive into the next exercise? Okay, gonna jump into the next exercise, which if you don't mind switching this, actually even before the next exercise, this is kind of giving us a little more idea of why stories. We can go back a few slides, sorry about that. Just to the first one. Like, why would we want to use storytelling for fundraising? And this is more than just my idea. This is from Ali Sterling, a fundraising expert. So storytelling can allow donors to make a deeper connection to your participants and to your cause. And that makes them not only more likely to donate, but also more likely to give time, give resources, volunteer. And I think one thing we forget in fundraising is so much of it is about relationship building. You can jump to the next slide. And so good stories, Ali Sterling says, can convey a combination of your passion behind the cause, but also the urgency for help needed to support your mission. Go to the next slide. And this is just a stat. I don't know what about the other 32%, but 68% of nonprofit supporters feel motivated to donate to a cause after reading a compelling story about that organization or that cause. And so, yeah, so we're going to jump to the next exercise, which is called the monster. So I'm going to take about a minute just to find a piece of paper, or you could also do this on your computer if you're more skilled than I am, but you're going to grab a piece of paper and a pen or a marker, and then you're going to just draw a random scribble or a doodle. Don't think too much about it. Just like 1 minute, draw something, anything. That's just a random group of lines and drawings. Maybe we could give an example just so you can see what it might look like in the next slide. It might look something like that. We could go back, but it doesn't need to look like that. That's just an example. So I'm going to do this along with you.
Just a second. I just saw a comment that someone's not seeing the slides.
Okay.
Can you see them now, or can everyone see slides?
If you cannot see the slide, can you put in the chat that you cannot see it? Okay. Even if you can't see the slide, I think I'm gonna try to give you we'll try to fix that with you as we're grabbing the piece of paper and pen. But I think the basic idea is to try to just draw something random. It's a doodly scribble or scribbly doodle. And when you're done with your drawing, if you're able to show it to the camera, that would be super appreciated. And if you cannot, if you could just put in the chat that you're done and ready, that would be awesome. And also, I do want to acknowledge that there are people with different levels of being able to see or not, and I'm going to do my best to guide everyone through this exercise. I want to encourage everyone to participate, and I'm here to support. Okay, see a couple starting to appear. I see some folks in the chat saying they're ready. Okay, seeing a few more. These are great. These are amazing. Give it a few more minutes. Okay, and when you're done, I'm gonna ask you now to take that doodle, take that scribble, and you're gonna turn it into something scary. You're gonna turn it into something haunting, something that's a monster. So you're gonna have a couple of minutes to do that. So turn your scribble or your doodle into a monster. And that's an example of what it might look like. And again, when you're done, just show it to the camera or put that you're done in the chat if you don't want your camera to be on, just so that you know you're done. Oh, I'm starting to see some cool ones. Nice, Jihan. Okay, see more folks are done. We'll give it like 30 more seconds. I want to see those. Oh, that was a good monster. Scary. Okay. All right, I'm gonna ask folks to wrap it up. And now I'm gonna ask you, I'm gonna tell you that that's your fundraising monster. And I wanna know what it would say to you. How does it scare you? You know, what are some of your fundraising fears? Fears about asking for money, or what makes fundraising scary? Anyone wanna start?
I'll start. So for us, I feel like we're baby organization, we're new organization. The thing that's always worries me when I apply for grant is there's more people are qualified, more people who are they have more experience organization. They're more into the field. We just got okay from the state last year, 2020, just before the pandemic. So it's and there is organization that have been there for like long time and longer than us, definitely, with more people, more staffing, a space. We don't have a space as we speak, even though we got 3 grants, but they're small grants. We still work from our homes and remotely. We don't have a space yet, for example. So this is something that scares me so much when I apply for grants. I'm like, definitely more experienced organization than us.
Well, thank you so much for being bold and being brave and getting your organization started and being successful. And it is a real fear, and appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that. And I think most of the organizations that I work with are really small. And I know for myself, you know, even the basketball league that I've run for years is really small. So it is a real fear and it is a real challenge. So thank you there. Other fears, anyone else? Other fears around asking for money? Or...
I guess this is Mike with Black and Pink. I guess there's a lot of like imposter syndrome, which is maybe kind of similar to what we heard before, like I'm not good enough, or our org's not doing like dope enough work, and comparing ourselves to other people. But also asking for money can feel like a lot. Like, are we doing dope enough work to qualify, you know, or be entitled to get some money to support our work?
You know, and that's a super real fear. And it's also, I just want to say that like the fact that you all are doing your work is because a lot of other folks aren't supporting the communities you support, that there's so much inequity in where money goes to. And it doesn't really go to enough still to marginalize folks, the folks that you all support. There's so much racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia still in the foundation world, although it's shifting. So those are real fears, but I just want to echo that the fact that you're here, the fact you're doing your work is dope and it is good enough. But I want to hear a few more fundraising fears.
Doris, you had your hand up earlier?
Yeah, so I guess my fear is fear of rejection. You know, you kind of put your heart and soul into writing a grant, having board members review it, other people review it, think you have a good, you know, good story, and then it's completely dismissed. So
that's also, Doris, thank you. That is a real fear. And you know, it's something that, you know, I don't know. I've had one organization that I was really proud of the work, and somehow we were keep getting no's until we got a big yes. So I do also want to encourage you, you and everyone here, to keep trying, keep at it. And I'm going to put a pause on this just for the sake of time, and we're going to come back to it in a second. But I just want to give you some of the big picture of fundraising. And I want folks to put in the chat what you think the amount of money that's given to nonprofits in 2020 was across the United States, the total amount of money. What's your guess? Just throw some guesses in the chat. There's no wrong answers. Okay, 5 billion, billions, okay. Let's go to the next slide. 500 million. So it's actually $471 billion that went to nonprofits in 2020. And again, the reason we're talking about storytelling is a way to help you stand out. It's a way to help you get a little bit of that, a little piece of that pie. Now, before going to the next, okay, we can go to the next slide. Yeah, and I see some wows in the chat. Now, if I asked you, and I want you to put in the chat, where most money for nonprofits comes from, does it come from individuals or foundations or corporations? Put your best guess in the chat. See individuals, I see foundations, individuals. Okay, y'all are smarter than I expected. Let's go to the next slide. So the formula is really surprising. Individuals actually, this is from 2017, but it hasn't changed much. About 80% of donations go to nonprofits from individuals. And only about 20% goes from foundations and corporations. All those corporations are so greedy. Let's jump to the next slide. And so let's talk a little bit about answering some of these fundraising fears that are very real. And I want you to think about the last time you gave money to an organization. How did that make you feel? That you gave to an organization that wasn't your own, let's just say. And you can put it in the chat, or anyone want to go, please? See a few. You're giving your donors a chance to participate in the mission. Okay, I'm going to ask the question again. When you personally gave money to an organization that you cared about, how did giving that money to that organization, even if it was your church or your mosque or your synagogue, like how did that make you feel? You could just put one word answers in the chat too, if that's helpful. Helping, but also knowing government should bear a burden. Maria said that it made her feel great. Mona said it fulfilled an obligation, felt good to make a difference, makes you feel more connected to the organization, like I was living my values. So these are all really common answers. Some other answers might be proud. I'm glad I could do it. I wish I could do more. It makes me happy to give back. And so some reason when we're giving money, it feels good, but when we're asking for money, it doesn't feel good. And so I want us to think about fundraising in a different way, not in terms of money, but instead of when we're asking for money, it's really not about asking money for ourselves or even our organization, but as a means to improve people's lives. Another way of saying this is that you love your organization and you believe in it. And you're asking for funds, not for yourself, but for people who need support, people that benefit from your help, and that your programming is making a difference. Okay, so I'm going to jump to the next slide just for time reasons. And so we're going to break out into some breakout rooms. This is going to give you a chance that we often don't have at the office, just to write, or our home office, or our bedroom, or wherever we're working today, to write your own story. I just want you to make it short. You're gonna have about 8 minutes to get into the nitty gritty of who you are, why you do what you do, how you do it, you know, and then we're gonna come back. Sorry, we're gonna share. We're gonna write for 8 minutes, share for 8 minutes, and then we're gonna come back with the group. And we're going to go in a small group. So first 8 minutes to write, then 8 minutes to share. Should make it 6 minutes. I realize we're running a little behind. It can be your own story. It could be a participant story. You can write, you can just think about it. You can even draw a picture. It's more to get your brain thinking about what's the story. You could take just do some bullet points. Thinking about how your story or a participant story connects to your organization story. You can write bullet points, can draw a picture. It's more to get the creative juices flowing.
David, while I'm making the rooms, could you put the questions in the chat so it sticks with them as they move?
Sure. And I'll be bouncing from group to group.
know May's in a car right now, so she might not be able to join into a group right
Okay.
away. Yeah.
Dominique, do you want to go just to the room, one room, and pass me to another room, and maybe
Sure.
bring us back at like 2:25?
You got it. I'm gonna move you to room 3.
Thanks.
You're on mute.
So do we have everyone back? Dominique, are you here?
Yes.
And are we just pulling everyone back into the main room?
Everyone should be back already. I think we lost a couple folks.
Okay. So I want to honor people's time, and I know we don't have a lot of time. So I wanted to open it up to questions. I wanted to first thank everyone. Like, the work you're doing is amazing. It's needed. I hope you learned something today, and I'm excited to stay connected with you. So I know Dominique will share my email if anyone needs to connect with me. There are more resources in this handout, which will come your way, including a really fun icebreaker and some sites that you can go to get more ideas. But I want to leave it as some questions. Are there any questions?
So David, this is Marshall. One of the things that Andrew brought up is, and we have struggled with, how to cultivate those individual donors, you know, because that's time intensive work. And so for small organizations, how do you really make that productive?
It's a great question. Any ideas from the group before I jump in?
I participated in another seminar similar to this, and they said, go back to the people that have donated in the past and express your gratitude, because they've already donated before and they're more apt to donate again, to really beef up that appreciation for them so they're more willing to give again.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Lauren. The two most important words in fundraising are thank you. And you thank people by keeping them informed. You thank them by not asking for always asking for money, but for building relationships. And I think building relationships are the second two most important words in fundraising after thank you. And so Doris, I know it's a tough process, but I think Hawthorne actually does it really well in terms of the relationship building. And then, you know, you also have to be able to make the ask. And for folks who are executive directors, make sure that your board is giving. So make sure you're making that ask to them, and make sure that they're making asks to their networks. And I see some questions maybe in the chat. Okay, I see some folks are putting their contact information. Okay. Any other questions? Doris, Marshall, I hope that answered your question. You all do a good job with that on that side of things. And I think Lauren's point of going back to those givers is really important. Any last questions? And you can see here some of these other places we can, we have to tell these stories through social media. We have to tell these stories through letters of inquiry. You should try to call foundations to tell your story if you're able to, by connecting with a foundation officer. Sometimes you'll save yourself a ton of time in writing a proposal if you can get someone on a call and try to find out if you're a good fit or not. And oftentimes those relationships with those foundation officers can connect you with someone they may think is more important. I helped an organization get an $85,000 grant this week, and it was all through relationship building. Almost, we had to write a 2-page concept paper, and that was it. And within 2 weeks, and that was one of the largest grants they've received. So, and that was all through building relationships. Any last questions? Anything in the chat? I guess the last thing, because I know this is a hard time for so many people, and I often close my presentations and other workshops thinking about how sometimes we can't realize how powerful positive social change is. And think about the story of Nelson Mandela, who for 36 years was in prison during the apartheid reign, which was in South Africa, and this sharp divide between where white people were in the minority and on the top and controlling all power levels, and the Black majority had the least rights. In many ways, it was like a permanent Jim Crow through the 80s. And there was a social movement across the US, across the world, to try to isolate South Africa. And with a lot of internal struggle and Black leadership, Nelson Mandela went from prisoner to president. And it's just something I try to think about how we got to keep that hope alive. We got to keep pushing, and things can change and things will change. And it's from folks like you and the folks that you collaborate with in your communities. And with that, I'm going to say thank you. And I hope you all have a great end of the week and an amazing weekend. Take care, folks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I'll stick around if anyone wants to ask more questions, but I want to let folks go.
David, are you going to share your presentation or will it be shared?
Yeah, it'll be
Okay.
shared through the Zachem Fund.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Thanks so
welcome.
much for your time today.
Thank
Have
you.
a nice day.
You too.
Hi, David. I have a quick question.
Sure.
So the question is that some of my board members having a hard time to feel that they need to contribute financially. They feel that they are doing some work, like say, one person who helped to do some editing, not on a daily basis, on occasions. And so how can we help the board say, 100% contribution is so important, each board should give? What is the bottom line?
That's a really good question, and it's a really common struggle from a lot of grassroots organizations because boards do give a lot of their time. I think one thing that's important, and maybe it's like as you're adding board members, is like making it really clear that whatever your expectation is, if it's a contribution of $1 or if it's $100 or $1,000, what do you think is a fair contribution? And maybe some of it, maybe you can also quantify that in time. But I think boards at the grassroots level sometimes forget that their number one responsibility, in my view, is fundraising and fiduciary responsibility. So, and I think maybe having a real honest conversation about that and why it's needed, and maybe using some of these stories as your stories from the folks that you're supporting as a way to get them to donate. And it may be in a one-on-one setting rather than in a big group where they're feeling pressure, but and there's always ways to build more board members. And I hope this answer is helpful, but I do know it's a challenge, not just for you, but for a lot of folks.
Yes, so talk to individual to see how they think they can contribute. Right?
Yeah, or another way is trying to get them to maybe another way folks do it is instead of them giving directly, that you ask them, well, if you can't give yourself, can you pull in some new donors? Could you do a party to raise money? There's different ways for folks to give.
Yeah, that's great suggestion. I think ask them to say host a party, invite some friends to open it work instead of themselves.
Definitely.
Okay.
Tata or Jihan. Oh, you're welcome.
No, I'm just listening. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and for your feedback and everything. Thank you.
Hope it was helpful. Tata, look forward to connecting with you soon. Say hi to Luther.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to meeting you.
All right, take care.